Good morning. It is 7 o'clock a.m. on Monday, November 22nd, 2021. This is I am Christiana Ellis, and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. I was starting to say, like, this is Christiana Ellis, which, it's a formulation that people say, this is Christiana Ellis coming to you from 5 more minutes in the morning. Um, I spent a big chunk of yesterday playing more Deathloop, which I'm really getting into now. As I've mentioned before, it took me a little while to get back into feeling comfortable with the controls and all. I will say that I'm in a particular spot right now where I've gotten a little bit frustrated because the things that I've been doing to pass other challenges are not working for me here, which is probably because the game is trying to encourage me to use some other strategy. So I'm going to try to change things up. But I think while much of the game is very cool, I mean, essentially what it becomes is that you have these four regions of the island and four time periods, and each region is a little different at each time period. And eventually it becomes, as you're looping through this day, you have to visit each location in each time period and face various challenges there to assemble all of the information you ultimately need. It's the basic structure of the game. But a handful of the places you have to go through these slightly more rigorous areas. It's a little bit almost like boss fights. It's very similar to boss fights in a lot of respects. But yeah, and that's one of those I'm having a little bit of trouble with. I will say that I think the thing that's a little bit frustrating is occasionally, well, okay, usually what happens is you have something that's the equivalent of having, multiple lives in a Super Mario game or something like that. Something where if you get killed, it just rewinds you a little bit, and you can try again, and you can do that up to like 3 times, and then you would have to start the day over. And if you have to start the day over, then the odds are that um, you have to do maybe like 10 minutes worth of like stuff to get back up around to uh, the place where you were trying to beat if you want to just try to go back to that same area. Like you could end up doing a lot more than that, but like if you're really hurrying to try to get back to a specific area. But this particular challenge has an additional wrinkle to it that puts a timeline on it where if basically if you get spotted in a certain area, it puts a little timeline on it which will just end the whole loop no matter how many of your little lives you have left. And that's been what's tripping me up lately, which is a little annoying. But I'm really liking the game, so I should, be clear about that part. The fact that I'm just currently stuck on something that's a bit more challenging shouldn't change the fact that I've been playing a lot of it over the last couple of days because I'm having a lot of fun with it. Um, what else? What was I? I did watch the first episode of the Netflix animated series Arcane, which is apparently based on the world from the video game League of Legends, which I'll say first off that I'm not like super familiar with League of Legends except as a general category of game that I'm aware of. I've not really ever played it. I've watched it be played for maybe a grand total of a few minutes. But it is one of if you are even less familiar with that than with it than I am, then the basic concept of the game is that it's one of those sort of vaguely real-time strategy games where you're trying to control a map, where you control various sort of powerful heroes, and then there's lots of little AI controlled like minions that you've got on your side, and you're basically trying to take over control points on the map. It's a multiplayer game, and it's one of the ones that has been done a lot in esports and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, my perception of that game has always been like, story? What story? Isn't that the game that has just like a whole bunch of just weird rando characters that vaguely exist in a world? And there's no real plot because every game is just the same battle over and over again with a different combination of characters. I mean, obviously, if you've been following it and are into it, you probably are more aware of it. But um, so the idea that they were making an animated series based on it, my instinct was just like, well, what story is there even to adapt? Well, I still don't know the answer to that, but it seems clear having watched the first episode of Arcane on Netflix, and that's all I'll just leave with for now is just to say the first episode is both very good and does not require any foreknowledge of any other thing. It just plays like sort of a vaguely steampunky fantasy series. Um, and it's like it mostly is following two sisters who are orphaned after apparently a war of some kind, and now they're growing up scrounging for scraps in like the undercity of this big this big sort of fantasy empire. And I mean, it's just real good. Check it out. I mean, I'm going to be watching more about it, and I'll maybe talk more about it once I've seen more. But thumbs up, and at least based on the first episode, you really do not have to know anything at all about the game. So I know that warned me off of it a little bit, and that was totally unnecessary. So I'll leave it there. Got to get to work and talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.